Donald Trump gave another second inauguration speech. And once again, neither the strategic Bitcoin reserve was mentioned. Ross Ulbricht hasn't been pardoned yet. However, Elon Musk just said a few minutes ago that Ross Ulbricht will definitely be pardoned. And that could trigger a total Bitcoin quake. This could trigger a total freedom quake. He was also asked here whether that's the case here. Snowden might also get pardoned because it can't be that other people are getting pardoned. But Snowden is still basically considered a criminal in the US here. And here Elon Musk also says he wants to inquire, so he's asking about it. And this is now a massive sign and could trigger a total Bitcoin shockwave. Just now, it was even announced here that Ross Ulbricht is now officially being pardoned. Here someone says they seem to be in contact with Donald Trump. I can confirm that this is Ross Ulbricht. Tonight or tomorrow morning, he might be pardoned, which means that by the time this video is online, Ross Ulbricht could already be a free man. And that could really be a massively good sign for Bitcoin. This could also massively boost the Bitcoin price. Just forget what I said about Ross Ulbricht in the rest of the video, because things are really heating up again right now. This is an absolute last-minute update for the video. I think this is really ramping things up. Here's another huge opportunity for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Really amazing. Ross Ulbricht is now almost a free man. Not quite confirmed yet, but almost. In the meantime, the whole day is now over. And Donald Trump has officially kept his promise, pardoning Ross Ulbricht on the first day. I've been saying all along, that's what you need to pay attention to. If Donald Trump does that, then the strategic Bitcoin reserve will follow. Very likely, it will follow very soon. Donald Trump didn't do that. And little by little, the Bitcoin community is really getting stirred up, because Donald Trump actually hinted at it here. And now it looks like there's no strategic Bitcoin reserve coming. A lot of people were expecting that. Now it might not happen after all. I mean, we still have a long time. Could happen on the second day or the third day. There's still a lot of room for growth. Many also assume that it will come in the near future. But in the first and second inauguration speeches, Bitcoin wasn't mentioned at all. I took a look at the whole thing. But now something way crazier has happened. And Bloomberg has published a whole list of executive orders, where you can clearly see it all laid out, which executive orders Donald Trump will push through. What's interesting is that the executive order for Bitcoin doesn't even exist here. So there's no executive order for Bitcoin planned here. Now the question is, either Bloomberg is wrong here. The sources here are wrong. Or is it all just a bunch of hot air in the end, and there's no executive order coming at all? There were various leaks that predicted this, that an executive order will definitely go through here. Donald Trump has already signed the first executive orders, but he wants to. Overall, he's going to sign up to 100 executive orders. Now we'll find out if Bitcoin is going to make it in or not. But I'll say can this be understood a bit? Because the priorities in the US are, well, partly different here. They first need to look at internal security. They first need to take a look that there are other problems because the US really has a lot of issues. Maybe other problems need to be fixed. And once that's fixed, maybe we can focus on Bitcoin here too. But we have some additional things that are happening now, and there's a new state that has also just released a new Bitcoin law here. Let's take a look at that. Because if Donald Trump doesn't issue the executive order here, then states will step in and create their own strategic Bitcoin reserves. We have a new SEC chair. There are also some interesting backgrounds here. And we're going to take a really close look at that now. Because what's going on here right now is really very important and very explosive. First, we have CSET here, who actually says, a new era is beginning. And here, there are really questions to be asked. What does he mean by a new era? Donald Trump is now the first Bitcoin president. Now, some people have already written, the only Bitcoin president in the world is still Nayib Bukele. Donald Trump is not a Bitcoin president here. We'll take a look at how really pissed off people are here, and the massively negative comments that came in here. But CSAT says here, a new era is beginning. And now the question is whether this will be the Bitcoin era or the shitcoin era with meme coins and pump and dump schemes. The shitcoin era is coming, where everyone launches their meme coin, where basically everyone is into shitcoin nonsense, and where all the pump and dump schemes are being brought to the forefront. That's something you really have to keep in mind, because Gary Gensler was the brake that held everything back a bit. We'll take a look at that in a moment, what's going on here at the SEC. And now Gary Gensler is no longer in office. And now it may be that all the shitcoin tokens are making massive advances here. Trump plans to vote Gensler out. He might release his Trump token soon. He says he'll vote Gary Gensler out on the first day that Gary Gensler is gone. So he might just drop his shitcoin token, his Trump token, not on the same day, but maybe a day or two before. Gary Gensler has to feel a bit mocked here. Currently, And then we have a very interesting assessment here from Stephen Lubaka from Sworn. And he does say here, just to be clear, it would have been psychopathic and crazy to talk about Bitcoin in the inauguration speech. In the base case, you can expect the announcement of the stockpiles within the next 48 hours. So when we talk about stockpiles, we're referring to the stockpile. I will admit when I am wrong. But I think it's a simple decision, and that's how a lot of people think. That Donald Trump has other priorities. And when he says that, he doesn't say it right at the beginning, but maybe after a day, after 2 days, and so on. Donald Trump has already talked about this too, that there will still be different parks. And maybe one of those parks is also Ross Ulbricht. Could it be anything? Is it still coming? Do we just need to keep an eye on both? I'll definitely keep you updated on this. And then we actually had reports like that here. Bloomberg just released a list of the expected decrees. There's no mention of Bitcoin and crypto. And funny enough, they were also one of the bigger media outlets that talked about a leak and assumed there would be a Bitcoin crypto decree on the first day. So very, very interesting how everything is basically changing now. First, they really went all out. It was said here, hey, we have leaks and so on. Here, Donald Trump really went all out on the first day. An executive order and just bomb it out there. But now it actually looks like you're getting there are reverse pieces of information. There was also that other sheet that was published here, where Bitcoin and crypto weren't mentioned and other priorities addressed, like securing the borders. For example, energy optimization, it's all about drill, 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 baby, to demand more oil here, and that you can just reduce costs in the US. People are getting taxed less. Seems these are the priorities for now, and Bitcoin is not even listed here anyway. I'd say it doesn't seem to interest Donald Trump, and that you can just bring down costs in the US, so that people are taxed less. It seems like these are the priorities for now, and Bitcoin is not even on the list. I'd say since it's not listed at all, it doesn't seem to interest Donald Trump at all. Yeah, at least he hasn't sold the Bitcoin now. We definitely have to do that here, to say hold on tight. We've actually managed to get into the Trump era now, without selling the Bitcoin here, because a lot of people have speculated. Is Biden selling them now? I think it was 69,000 Bitcoin or something like that, which would be put up for sale. It's probably going to turn Donald Trump away. I'm pretty sure about that. But Bitcoin still hasn't been mentioned. And there were actually a lot of them. There are a lot of critical voices that have massively criticized Donald Trump here, a whole bunch of people, writing, hey, what's going on with Ross Ulbricht? Donald Trump has clearly said that on the first day, he will pardon Ross Ulbricht. And that's always what I've said. Look at whether Donald Trump pardons Ross Ulbricht. If he does that, then most likely the strategic Bitcoin reserve is coming. If that doesn't happen, then we really need to question the whole idea of the strategic Bitcoin reserve, whether it really happens and in what form it comes, and so on. Whatever you have to keep in mind. What Jeff Park is saying here, never forget, it's not. Bitcoin is Trump who needs it. It's Trump who needs Bitcoin. Never confuse who has the power to make the truth. So the one who really has the power, that's definitely not Trump here. You shouldn't let yourself be fooled by all this stuff. But we are really the sovereign ones. Bitcoin brings the power to the people and not to the politicians. That's the cool part, that we are the people here, the politicians. That's the awesome part, that we are the people here, who can't really change the network, but they can vote on the network rules, who can basically hold their money in self-sovereignty here. And it's not Bitcoin that needs the politicians, but the politicians who need all the Bitcoin. But aside from what's going on here, with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, I'm still sure it's going to be a very, very positive year for Bitcoin, for complete adoption, that there's still a whole lot here. This year is possible, and it doesn't matter what Donald Trump is doing right now. It's definitely going to be a very, very good year. A lot of people are still very, very sure about that. We're still in the bull run, but where exactly do we stand right now? The question is whether we're really at the end, or if this is just getting started, with the parabolic phase or something like that. You can't really say for sure. Some people think we have another 6 months. Some people think we still have a whole year left. You can see a supercycle in like post-gold ETF. Extended supercycle. They say we're now in a third, fourth, fifth, or even sixth year supercycle, just like what happened after the ETF approval for gold ETFs. There wasn't a down year anymore. It just kept going up. Sixth, seventh years only going up. And then we also have things that really strongly support that it's going to be a truly massive year. Here, Dennis Porter says, great news, the state of Utah is the 11th state where a bill for a strategic Bitcoin reserve is being introduced. Thank you very much for the leadership here. He's still playing the politician. Mark this here, the one who's responsible. And that's also what Dennis Porter keeps saying, that it doesn't really matter what Donald Trump is doing here. He's basically going to make sure that the strategic Bitcoin reserve goes through at the federal and state level. Ensure that the strategic Bitcoin reserve goes through. He also says it's important to keep promises. I promised that 12 states would establish strategic Bitcoin reserves here. And today is the 11th. Coming up, the 12th is almost here. This time, Trump promised that he would keep 100% of the Bitcoin that the USA currently owns. He should keep this promise and sign the executive order. He also tagged Donald Trump in another tweet and called him out here. Finally signed the executive order here. But of course, Donald Trump isn't going to read this right now. He's probably busy with other things right now. Feel free to drop a comment down below letting me know if you feel like Donald Trump is messing with you, or if you just think, hey, this needs a bit more time. Or if you say, hey, I expected this to happen, that it will turn out this way. You can't really trust politicians anyway. There was also news from the SEC. Gary Gensler is officially no longer the head of the SEC. And it says here that Trump is appointing Mark Uyeda, a pro-Bitcoin Republican SEC member, as the interim chair of the agency, before the former SEC Commissioner Paul Atkins takes on the role permanently. So now we have a new face at the SEC, and we're really curious about what that means. Does that mean we're just going to see a bunch of shitcoin stuff coming our way? What does this mean? We will see shitcoins or pro-Bitcoin regulations, likely pro-Bitcoin. Or if this means we're looking at some extremely pro-Bitcoin regulations, probably definitely more pro-Bitcoin. It's going to be really, really interesting to see if he can actually do a better job than Gary Gensler. I didn't think Gary Gensler was that bad, because he regulated Bitcoin a bit. Other people see it a bit differently. Of course, he also regulated Bitcoin. Maybe he could have been a bit more open about it. But yeah, I don't think Gary Gensler was as bad as a lot of people make him out to be. And now I found an exciting bullish snippet here on Nico Jurch's podcast. And Porter Kodasek was invited here and is talking about his 2025 price target and his outlook for 2025. Check it out. I'm putting a link down here to the full episode. You can check out the whole thing there. It was really, really interesting.
Do you still believe in it? What's your price target? Like in a bull market, by the end of the year, do you have an idea about that?
Well, unfortunately, I stand by my 200,000th statement, because that hasn't really changed. Because the life statistics for Austrian men haven't changed. So I have before 5. 1.43 remaining life expectancy can be calculated. So according to the statistics, whether my body can handle it, that's a different question. That's basically a criterion or a parameter of the formula. And the second is if you have a linear calculation, or even better, not a linear one, but what's that called anyway?
Logarithm.
If the curve takes that shape, then it's just 200,000 during that time. And then I say, because I only have a determination about my lifetime, what will my successors do then? What you think is right, but I won't be selling it then if the 200 record isn't there yet. Unless, of course, you always have to add that. I'm in a tough spot. If there's no limit, then I have to sell or I'll be expropriated. That's the essence of a reserve. A reserve shouldn't be money that you want to squander, but that you never attack, except in an emergency. Every company is well advised to keep such reserves. Unfortunately, it's not a requirement. It's just a guideline that you shouldn't have negative capital.
So he's also talking about how important it is to build a reserve on a personal level, just like the US is building a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So you can definitely do that on a personal level too. And then the topic here is really, really interesting that she brings up here. And what she brings up then is that a reserve is really meant to tackle things in the long run. That means you had it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and then no one can come up with the argument. Yeah, Bitcoin is too volatile and so on, because it doesn't matter at all if you have a reserve. A strategic Bitcoin reserve, whether it's on a personal level, on a state level, on a company level, then you've had Bitcoin for at least 5 years or 10 years. And then you don't care about the volatility either. If you have Bitcoin here, maybe on a 2-week basis or something like that, yeah, then I get that people can criticize here. The volatility, I don't know what. But it's really important to take away from this that having a reserve means here, that you hold it here for the long term. And that's why Bitcoin is just perfect here, suitable for that. And he says, yeah, even here, if we have a reserve in Bitcoin, on a personal level or on other levels, then we can also operate differently here. Then we're prepared for crisis times. And that's exactly what's breaking the neck of many companies right now, because a lot of people just don't have a reserve anymore. But that's also completely understandable, because saving just isn't worth it anymore, because being in debt is worth it and saving is currently being punished in our society. And now, if you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link for you down below to 21 Bitcoin, how you can easily, safely, and simply buy Bitcoin. Here you can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin with the code Bitcoin. See you later. See you later. Peace out.